Follow the 4Corners Podcast on social media. Like us on Facebook, 4Corners Podcast. Follow us on Twitter, Podcast 4Corners. And check us out on Instagram, 4Corners Podcast. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes and Stitcher. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review.
I want to take this time to apologize to the television audience for what they're about to see.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 4 Corners Podcast. I am Shad here with Matt and Brad. Guys, how are you today?
Doing good, Shad.
I'm doing good.
All right. I want to say thank you to everybody who's joined us for this episode. We'll get our shout-outs taken care of. The first one is going to go to Collar and Elbow, the wrestling brand, collarandelbowbrand.com. Use the promo code 4 Corners Podcast. That is the number 4, capital C in Corners, capital P in Podcast with no spaces to save 10% off your order. Just as a note, our promo code does combine with any sales that are going on. So you can get 10% off of whatever the flat rate taken off for a sale is. And then our other shout out means I hand the ball to Matt.
That would be to Orlando Cologne. I also want to give a shout out to Observer Group member Paul Fontaine. Paul does his own podcast. Paul was apparently appalled that I was drinking Conor McGregor's Proper 12 Irish whiskey as I'm doing the podcast.
Really?
Yes, I'm a professional. I never drink during the podcast. And I'm like, well, I'm not professional.
I don't most episodes, but I've been known to enjoy a White Claw before the show.
Are you down with Claw?
Yes.
They have
new flavors too.
Claw.
Yeah. I saw some new flavors.
Getting down with that spicy water.
You know what I don't understand? What is the obsession with mango and everything? I don't like mango, and they put it in everything now.
You didn't see the SNL skit? Everybody's like, I need my mango.
No. I like mango by itself, but I feel mango in things is not good.
No, I don't think so either.
Also, if we're going to venture into this discussion, please stop putting passion fruit into things.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Passion fruit is not good. If you want to do sour, do like a sour cherry or something like that. Passion fruit is just nasty.
There's another one that they put in everything now, and it's really getting on my nerves.
They spent all of the 90s shoving cranberry into everything they conceivably could.
See, but cranberry can be okay.
Yes.
It can be, or it cannot be.
Cranberry is less offensive to me than passion fruit. Passion fruit is almost always disgusting, in my opinion.
That stuff is like, when you go to a restaurant and they you can get an assorted fruit when you're trying to eat extra healthy, and it's like, why do I want the assorted fruit? You're gonna throw a couple of grapes in there with some honeydew and cantaloupe, and I don't like either of those. You're not even gonna give me some watermelon, so stop calling it assorted fruit. Just tell me it's melon, please.
Yeah.
And if I'm lucky, you might have put one piece of pineapple in there.
Perhaps.
I recently made the mistake of basically blind buying a 12-pack of Mountain Dew Major Melon.
Oh no.
Mountain Dew charged with watermelon flavor.
Not good?
Not good. And I like watermelon.
I even like watermelon in drinks. Like there's like a good what's the water? I think it's Bay's watermelon's good.
Maybe, if this was like a LaCroix or, Polar Springs, some sort of like carbonated seltzer or soda water that would had watermelon flavoring, it probably would have been fine.
Mm-hmm.
But the watermelon flavor combined with like the citrus of Mountain Dew is just not good.
Yeah, no.
I've contemplated trying to mix this with like vodka or something like that.
No, it's
like
gonna get even worse.
it might get tolerable, but I don't know.
The problem is like they do weird stuff with watermelon. It can turn out great, but what you need to do is you need to crank the sweetness up a little bit. But like they try and mix it with citrus things, and it doesn't go well with citrus. It's like its own taste. And honestly, watermelon itself is best with like just a little hint of salt to it.
Well, that's why I know, I don't think either one of you are like really heavy drinkers, and I'm gonna make it seem like I'm like an alcoholic, which I'm not, but
which he is.
I mean, maybe. My wife is from Texas, so like I have enjoyed a margarita in my day.
Yeah.
And I've had kind of watermelon flavored margaritas.
Yeah, I've had those because if you go to the city of Austin, you will forever be ruined and just be chasing that dragon of like the perfect margarita for the rest of your life until you go back to Austin.
Oh, absolutely. Like Texas does have the best margaritas. Like Austin is good. My wife is from San Antonio. San Antonio has like fantastic margaritas. San Antonio, this is not specifically a Texas thing, although they do this in Texas, but they have Coronitas, which is basically like a giant margarita that they turn a Corona bottle upside down in.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It is interesting. I've had it a few different places. It's actually pretty good. There's actually like a bar in San Antonio. It's actually I think like an offshoot of the Hofbrau Brewery, which San Antonio. This is like this. I'm getting into the weeds of this, but San Antonio has that area of San Antonio has a significant German population, or at least German heritage. And that kind of goes into like northeastern, a little bit northeastern of San Antonio, like New Braunfels, places like that. It's actually like there was a lot of German immigrants that settled in the area way back when. I don't know why. I don't know the history of it, but there's like a Hofbrau. They literally do like a dozen different versions of the Coronita. You can have like a margarita with like Blue Moon, or I think there was like a margarita. One margarita even had like a hard orange soda or something. It's weird. They get weird with it, but it's actually not bad.
If they're putting Blue Moon in it, I'll just pass.
It's not. Well, you know what? It's weird combinations, but the Corona margarita thing actually works because you basically drink the margarita, and then when you're done with it, you just like pull up the Corona bottle, and then it basically dumps all the beer into it. So you essentially have like a beer chaser at the end.
My other life advice: if you go to Texas, if there is any chance what you're about to eat might be spicy, it is going to melt your face off. Like if you go to like a Mexican restaurant and you just get chips and salsa, that salsa is going to like just melt your tongue pretty much.
They are more
it's more authentic there.
Yes, it's more authentic.
Yeah.
My poor wife. We go down sooner or later. We're going to go down to Texas to visit family down that way, and she's just going to be such up creek because she would agree with me when I say this, but she's just such a wimp whenever it comes to spice.
But I'll tell you, Shad, if you go to Texas, like you will think you're an alcoholic by day 2 because like the margaritas are just amazing there.
Well,
they're big and strong and delicious.
Yeah.
I have not yet had a margarita I enjoyed.
You will enjoy them there.
Just
because
you don't like.
Because here's the thing. Here's the thing that Texas pulls off and nowhere else seems to is in Texas, like they are strong, but you don't taste the alcohol. Like you get like the flavor with a little bite to it, whereas other places are really guilty of it's tequila with a little
mixer.
Well, a little mix of fruit in it, whereas in Texas it's like it's all about the flavor.
Well,
I will say about Austin specifically, I was at a wedding coming up on like 2 years ago that took place in Austin, and I was shocked to find that Austin actually has a really substantial craft beer like revival going on. Like there's a lot of like craft breweries there, like small like microbreweries. But
did you do the bats
really
when you went to Austin?
Oh yeah, I've done that. I've done that a couple times.
Yeah, that's fun.
The last time we actually did it was actually at that like that wedding weekend.
Oh, okay.
They did it was kind of it wasn't kind of like like the rehearsal dinner, but it was basically down near that bridge. And basically after dinner, we all like kind of congregated there because that's like actually a thing, especially in the spring, when it gets dark a little later. So you go around dusk, and you really actually can see just like thousands of bats, just like head out, because that's when it gets like dusk and it gets we're starting to get dark. That's when all like the bugs are out in the kind of like just kind of low flying in the area. That's when the bats come out, and it's like a buffet for them.
Yeah. I remember I stayed at a hotel there because I went there a couple times for work, and I stayed at I think it was the what was it called? The Embassy Suites I stayed at, and they had swans in the lobby.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's a bold move.
I guess they just live there and they have names and everything, and they've lived there for a long time. But so tonight we are doing part 2 of our draft. Last episode we did our top 10 picks. So I'm going to kind of recap who each of us took last time to give you an idea. So Matt took Scott and Rick Steiner, Arn Anderson, Bobby Eaton, Steve Williams, Terry Gordy, Barry Windham, Jeff Jarrett, Steve Austin, and Shawn Michaels. I took
That's Matt with the Lone Star Championship in the Texas region.
So me as Great Lakes Championship Wrestling, I took Big Van Vader, Bret Hart, Kurt Hennig, Ray Traylor, Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson, Ming the Barbarian, Ron Simmons, and Too Cold Scorpio. Shad with, was it Appalachian Championship Wrestling?
Yep.
Took Randy Savage, Sting, Stan Hansen, Dustin Rhodes, John Tenna, Cactus Jack, Animal Hawk, Jerry Lawler, and Stan Lane. So tonight we are going to pick up with picks 11 through 20. There's going to be a supplemental manager draft, but we need to dig a little deeper into research that because we don't have a huge list. So that will be a future episode. Also, I should mention, because I don't think we did, we each started with a couple of regional talents. So Matt also has Chris Adams, Iceman Parsons, Mo Adib, who is Ahmed Johnson, Black Bart, and Kevin Von Erich. I have Mike Enos, Wayne Bloom, Johnny Stewart, Al Snow, and Sergeant Slaughter. And Shad has Moondog Spot, Moondog Cujo, Brian Christopher, Bill Dundee, and Bob Armstrong. So let us get this off with a bang. So Matt, with the first pick of the 11th round, who are you going to take?
This one is tricky. I have guys that I've listed. I think there's a couple guys that I was going to pick in my number 11 through 20, but they got snatched up in the first 10. I'm going to go with the guy who at this point is older, but still Texas. He's a Texan true and true. Kind of would still add some gravitas to my promotion. You could still kind of have him up in the main event, but you could also have him work with guys as kind of transitioning them to the main event. Still has some name value, but I'm going to go Terry Funk.
That's a great pick.
The Funkster.
That is a great pick. Mm-hmm. It's one that I know I'd been sitting there stroking my beard going, could I justify picking Terry Funk at some point?
And he's not going to, I think at this point in his career, you're not going to get like 5-star classics out of him, but he has name value. He's going to put butts in seats. He can work anywhere you need him to on the card. You could tag him with Barry Windham. He could do brass knuckle stuff. He could hold the main title. And I would argue he has about 5 good years in him at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I would at this point in time, I would probably try, just thinking about booking, I'd probably try and have him. He has that name value, but I'd probably try and have him kind of build up some of my other guys as like main event talent. Like he could feud with them, but they would go over. And then towards the end, I could still have him do kind of brass knuck stuff.
And
almost
really,
kind of filling that role that he did in ECW.
I also think what I kind of commented on at the end of the last episode was I felt you had a really good mix of guys and some guys that could be your main champion, but you really didn't have that like national level name that could carry your brand. And I think Terry Funk is that, like, right out the gate, and he can, like you said, he can build your other guys up.
Yeah.
I think that's just a great pick in general. That's going to help the regional draw just in general too. So I got to applaud the choice. It's great.
So I guess I'm up.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a team I've been sitting on for most of the draft. I am going to go over to Japan. This is going to be my feature tag team of my promotion. They're going to really set the standard of the style and what you can expect when you watch a Great Lakes Championship Wrestling show. I'm going to build my tag team division around them. So I am drafting with my 11th and my 12th pick. I am drafting the Holy Demon Army of Toshiaki Kawada and Akira Taue.
Ooh. That's a great pick.
Two of the four pillars, baby.
Yeah, if you are in the first episode, you basically said you're trying to essentially build like an All Japan level promotion, and I mean these two guys are two of the best from All Japan historically, and also certainly like in the 90s.
Yep.
I'm sorry to cut you off. My personal favorite is probably Kawada. Like Kawada was probably like my all-time favorite All Japan guy.
Yeah, I think if you were gonna bring two of the four pillars over, they serve me better, even though most people would tell you Taue is the least of the four. Mm-hmm. But I think to get Kawada, you need Taue because of the Holy Demon Army bit, and I think I would prefer him over Mizawa or Kabashi, and I like him and Taue as a tag team.
Oh, they were fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know how to spell Taue's last name.
It's a Taue.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
We should this would be like a deep dive, but we should do a podcast covering what was it, like the championship carnival
95
finale? Yeah, we should do that match. It's considered Chad, I don't know if you like know this, but it's considered one of the best tag matches of all time.
We've kind of bandied it about a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that comes to me, and so I'm going to have my 11th and 12th pick. And now I'm concerned that I need to go ahead and pull the trigger on one of mine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get someone who wrestles a little differently than everybody else on the card does. And, is a good-looking guy, build him up, do good things with him, and I think we can believably have him do stuff with just about anybody on the card. But for me, number 11 is going to be Flying Brian Pillman.
That's a good pick.
That's a really good pick.
So
he fits your pretty boy young guy, too.
Yeah, that's going to make friend of the show, Christy Petrillo, either happy or disgusted, because I've got him in my 11th slot. I'm not sure which one.
He would be happy.
Just that he's on there.
That's a really solid pick because you could have him be face or heel.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a really like a sidebar, but what would you say? Would you say like his injury and of course like his untimely death, but like when he did the whole loose cannon thing?
Yeah.
I think he was primed to be like a major force.
Oh, I think
at the time.
Yeah.
Like he's a good worker. Like if he hadn't gotten injured where he couldn't actually physically go, like it's complicated because at that time the WWE was still in the mindset of pushing bigger guys, even though they had pushed Hart and Michaels by that point.
I think he was pretty rich.
Yeah, if you kind of put him more in like a modern day times, like he would have been like you could have pushed him if this was like comparable to the modern day times. Like you could have pushed him like main event status, just how over he was.
Yeah,
and how much hype he had at the time.
I'm looking for where a 93 look at him, And, dude's pretty built.
Yeah.
But 93, he was starting to lose cannon bit, wasn't he? Was that about that time?
94 maybe.
Okay. So he's got the potential in him to do it. And you know what? If we're going to have some fun with it, then I say let's have some fun with it. I just won't send him a contract that looks like a real contract.
That's a great pick. He has so much charisma. Like if you have Savage and Sting on your roster,
yeah,
like you could have him feud with those two as a heel, and that could be main event stuff.
Yeah. Well, okay, with Brad hitting up on some foreign talent here, I'm gonna drop a foreign talent I had my eye on because I think he kind of fits what I'm going, the hard hitting, and he's got some stuff nobody else does. So I believe, and I hope I'm not shooting myself in the foot, but I would it would be probably for short shots, say 3-4 months at a go, and then give him a break, that sort of stuff. But this is where I'm going to bring in Kenta Kobashi. So that's me saying, hey, well, okay, I'll admit Kobashi's one of the few that I know much about because
he would fit with your roster. He would fit the best of the four pillar guys, I think.
Yeah, and the reason I know probably I have more awareness of Kobashi than most folks is because in the EFED days everybody was a mark for the Burning Hammer, so I went to go learn about the Burning Hammer and I learned a little bit about Kobashi. So, just the fact that we've got. That I could have him as a hard-hitting spoiler that might come in sometime and take the challenger title, and it's just since nobody's familiar with him, nobody knows how to get it off of him, things like that. That's going to be my 12th spot.
That's a good pick. So then I took Akira Taue with
Matt,
my 12th.
you got real quiet, so you might want to turn your mic up.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I muted myself for a second.
Okay. Well, and my cat came over here and started yelling at my microphone, so apologies for that.
Oh, no problem.
So Brad had Taue for his 12, so that goes back to Matt.
Oh, it goes back to me. Okay. So for my 12th, I'm actually going to pick a guy that you guys actually right before the podcast were talking about. I have a spot to fill because a couple of guys that I was going to take, like Dustin or Stan Hansen or Cactus Jack, had already been taken by you guys. So I have to try and pick.
Okay, let's be honest. Mm-hmm. That wasn't you guys. That was all my fault.
Well, no, that's fine. That's the nature of the draft, brother. So
it is, brother.
I'm gonna pick a guy who I didn't initially thought of, but you guys mentioned him, and I'm like, you know what? He would actually fit really well in my promotion, and there's such a tremendous upside to him, especially given how his career worked out. But I'm going to go with Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah, that's a really great pick.
Yeah, Eddie, fantastic worker. In 1993, he was still early in his career, but I actually think my timeline might be a little bit off because I think when Worlds Collide pay-per-view, I think that was 94.
I think so too.
So he would have been a little bit before that, but Eddie was kind of just coming into his own. In 1994, he had the fantastic tag team with Latin Lover, Art Barr. Mm-hmm. They were absolutely fantastic. And for those who have not seen the When Worlds Collide pay-per-view, he had a fantastic tag team match against Octagon and El Hijo del Santo. El Hijo.
Or yeah, well, you got me.
Santo Jr.
Yeah.
El Hijo del Santo.
El Hijo del. God damn it.
Whenever I do it, I keep wanting to hit the H. Hijo. I keep wanting to hit the H's real hard, and I don't think that's right.
No, it's El Hijo.
Okay.
Yeah, they had a fantastic match. He was kind of just coming to his own in 1993, but obviously he got so much better.
And
Mhm.
Art Bardine kind of really screwed that up.
Yeah.
It did. But if you're looking at my promotion, like he would definitely play well because Texas-based, and he definitely was a Latin American star.
And the Guerreros had a history there.
Oh yeah,
too.
absolutely they did. So I think he would really work well. And down the line, obviously looking ahead, if thinking about how my promotion would grow, you could have him. You could have matches with like Shawn Michaels, Jeff Jarrett. He could even work like some of the Haas's. Like he would have been fantastic in that.
Definitely. Okay, so 13th round, Matt, you're up again.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna pick a guy who potentially someone might have picked. This is where the last half of my draft, I've kind of am focusing more on like the light heavyweights that I want to build my division, because again, there's a lot of top heavy guys like Haas's, more heavyweight guys, but I did want to have a really strong like light heavyweight kind of undercard or mid card. So this guy would have been very early in his career. He would have been kind of a rookie and still learning. But I'm going to go with Rey Mysterio Jr.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're the only. It's such a good choice, but that's the only place that he conceivably, in between our promotions, he'd be. But that's God, having Rey.
Yeah.
Especially at that point in his career when, I mean, he's still so light and so quick.
And pretty young. Like, how old was he at that time?
16 or 17, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I remember in Jericho's book, he sat down, I think it was either Lance or Ultimo. Probably Lance, well, or it might have been Luther. There was he had his match with Ultimo on a big show, and then they sat down to watch an exhibition match that was going to be between Psychosis and Rey Jr. And they sat there and watched the match that Rey had. And it's been a while since I read it, but at several points during the match, they looked at each other and said, "That's impossible." Just for the athleticism that Rey brought. So, God, he'd be so much fun to have around.
Yeah, and he could work with Eddie. They could tag together if they wanted to, like that. He's young at this point, but there's a tremendous amount of upside.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whew. Yeah, that's great pick.
Okay, so I'm up. So, got my tag team. So I'm gonna go with more of a mid card guy here. I'm gonna go with a face because I think I want a face here. So I'm gonna take the Patriot Del Wilkes.
He was on my list.
Has some history with Too Cold Scorpio. I think he mixed well with him and Ron Simmons. Good opponent for the Faces of Fear. Did some All Japan, so he's going to be familiar with Taue and Kawada. He can work Vader. So I think he's a good middle point guy for me.
That's a really good. That's a really good pick.
Shad, you're up.
Oh yeah, I am, and I am. I've got a guy on my list here, and I'm chewing over whether or not I would want to use him. So first thing I'm going to do is I want to get a dyed-in-the-wool heel that I can have some fun with. I can do some goofy stuff with. I could put him up against anybody, and we could screw with an effects budget and stuff. So this is where Papa Shango shows up.
I love it.
Why? Because this is a territory, I mean, for God's sake, Smoky Mountain had Unabomb and the Christmas Creature and The Ninja Turtle, I think. Screw it. Let's have some fun. Let's
I think it was
get the
Cowabunga, the Ninja Turtle.
Well, but screw it. Let's have some fun. Let's get some weirdness out there. And then I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lean in a little more because I want to have whenever it comes to the lighter side of stuff, and I want to have someone who could be scrappy and fight his way up and has a tremendous upside. He's not there yet, but we could do that. And so I am going to roll the dice. This is going to be an odd pick, but I'm going to roll the dice. This round is rolling the dice. Shango and the 1-2-3 Kid.
Oh, that's a solid pick.
Because we know how good Sean Waltman really ended up being. It just so happens that he had the misfortune of being an X Factor.
Oh, definitely the misfortune.
But then this way, I've got, he can have matches with Pillman and Lane. If he's having matches with bigger guys, then we can tell this story about him. He's trying to outpace him. He's trying to wear him down, that sort. And if he gets squished, nobody blames him. It doesn't hurt him. But if he's scrappy and God almost pulls it off, and I don't remember what his finish was as the 1-2-3 Kid, but if he hits the X Factor, or if he manages to lock the buzzkill or something like that, then oh my gosh, he stole one, and it's huge news. And so, that's going to be I think I'm getting into a little off the beaten path territory here.
I was I thought about him, but I was avoiding him because I thought Matt might be interested.
Okay.
I was, but he was not on my list. He's more of an alternate.
Okay. So for my 14th pick, I'm gonna kind of take a guy that fits my promotion stylistically. I need a mid-level heel. He will wrestle well with about anyone on my promotion. So for my 14th pick, I'm going to take Lord Steven Regal.
Steven Regal.
Solid pick.
It is.
Kind of exemplifies my style. Technically proficient, works stiff. I think would really fit that All Japan mentality if given the chance.
Yeah.
I considered him for a while, and then I went, well, I mean, he can do it, but he might be a little more technical than I guess, to steal a New Day phrase, big men slapping meat kind of stuff I've got going for a good part of my roster. He'd be different, but I don't.
I think you might lose some of, like, with the size of your roster. I think he might lose a little of his what makes him special just by being smaller.
Yeah. But it's still such a good pick.
Now that I think about it, again, much like I think Ron Simmons would have been fantastic in like early 90s All Japan. Steven Regal would have been fantastic too.
Definitely.
I mean, you had guys like Dan Crawford, Doug Furness, and then Dan Crawford, aka Phil Vaughn, Johnny Smith. You had those guys like in All Japan at the time. Like he would have fit right in with those guys. Had like probably fantastic matches with them.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Matt, you're up next with the 14th pick.
All right, I'm really actually happy that no one has picked this guy. And this guy again is trying to build up my light heavyweight division while also factoring into my luchador need. I think I'm sticking with just 2 luchadors here. That was one of the parameters for this draft. I'm counting Ray as one of them.
Eddie doesn't count as one because he's Texas.
Okay, yeah, I was hoping that Eddie did not count. I didn't think he would.
I'd count him as Texas.
This guy I think would count as a luchador, but also very young in his career, but definitely we know would pair well with Ray. But you could also have him work any of the light heavyweight guys that I've already picked. But Psychosis.
That's Psychosis.
We still need to do the Ray Jr. Psychosis feud.
That's true.
It's on there. We just haven't had a good chance to do it because there's a lot of footage, and it really requires some like diving into the weeds, and we really haven't had a good shot for like a real deep dig into anything the first couple of months of this year.
Yeah.
I was hoping after I get moved we could do that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So Matt, you have the 15th pick.
Oh, it goes back to me again?
Yep. Snake. Okay.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, I have a lot of picks left. My draft board. All right. I'm gonna go with. I have a couple. I'm allowed to have a couple of Japanese guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're allowed to have two.
I'm gonna pick a guy who would actually work seamlessly with both Japanese style, and also like lucha style.
I know who it is.
Ultimo Dragon.
Yep.
Ultimo did a bunch of time in Mexico.
Yep.
He did. And because I think I saw him wrestle in CMLL before I ever saw a Japanese match with him. Because my parents had satellite in the late 90s, so I used to get, I think it was on Tuesday nights at first, it might have been Saturday nights, but I used to get CMLL and AAA. They'd alternate weeks, and he was having a run in CMLL at the time.
Yeah, I think he would work. I mean, we saw from like late 90s WCW, like he would have fantastic matches with Eddie, with Ray, with Psychosis. You could have him face off against like Jarrett, Michaels. Like, there's a lot of options there that I would have. And I mean, he got over in WCW. Like, there's no reason why he couldn't get over in my promotion too.
Sure.
You could even have him face guys like Bobby Eaton. Bobby Eaton did some light heavyweight stuff in his time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Okay, we just actually talked about them a little bit ago, so I am going to bring in my secondary face tag team with my 15th and 16th pick. I am bringing in Doug Furness and Dan Crawford.
Ooh, really solid.
Because then you can pair them with Ming and the Barbarian. You have the Holy Demon Army, and I have Mike Enos and Wayne Bloom kicking around. And they can also, I'd probably use them as faces to start with, but they could also heal if they needed to. So that is my next two picks. So Shad, you are on the board.
Yeah. And I'm trying to, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to go. And I think the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to get a built-in storyline going, because I've got Bob Armstrong around, and so that means that I will use Brad Armstrong.
That's a good pick.
Because he can I can either have him be somewhere in the mid card, or I can have the story about how he's trying to measure up and prove himself to his dad. And now I am considering, cause I want to look something up real quick, because I don't want to be making this pick based. The whole reason I would make this pick is because my understanding of a certain area in the region, and where was he from? Yeah, he falls right in there. So because in North Carolina, we have, let me see, what's the name? Well, it doesn't really matter. There's two areas in North Carolina. There's the Robeson Hope Cumberland counties, which is where the Lumbee tribe lives, and then there is in Carolinas there's a place called Cherokee, where there is still a Native American population, and they're very established, that sort of stuff, which means that I'm going to hire Tatanka.
Oh.
Because Tatanka will, what he does is that he is going to tap into part of the demographic in my region that can very easily get overlooked.
And he's an underrated worker. I think he would fit really well with a lot of the guys you got.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think, he's billed at about 6'2", and look, we can't take any. We got to consider Tatanka had, for his run, he had a long undefeated run, and he got the crowd pretty fired up with his gimmick too. So, he's got charisma to do it, and he's going to be a position player for me. But I think that he is important to have on the card. So here we go, Tatanka.
Okay, so my 16th pick was Dan Crawford. So Matt, you're on the board for your 16th pick.
Okay. So I'm gonna go with a guy who he wasn't on my list initially. He's an alternate. But since some of the guys I wanted to pick were taken, I actually would have picked like the Patriot. Patriot would have been.
And he got that global connection too.
Yeah, as like an ode to global. I actually would have pushed Patriot as like a main event guy. He would have been pretty high up. But I'm going to choose a guy who also could be main event and was main event. Kind of has been slept on in this draft, but and not necessarily what I would think of when I think of like a kind of a Texas Haas type of league, at least partly Texas Haas. But I'm going to go Lex Luger.
Yeah.
He just didn't fit with what I wanted to do. There was nothing against him.
He doesn't perfectly fit with mine, but I think given the guys that I have drafted, he actually would fit with a lot of them. And I do. He's a power guy, so I think he could actually fit well with a lot of people that are on my roster. And we kind of off podcast, we've had a recent discussion actually that Lex Luger, Brad, you fully believe that Lex Luger is like criminally underrated.
Yes, because he gets a reputation as being bad, but he has he's got like bouts of not being great, and he has bouts of average, but he has some legitimately great periods of his career. Like his heel run in 89 and 90 are just absolute brilliance. In 88, he's really good. In 97, he really salvages something for that little bit of time he's chasing Hogan.
Yeah. I don't know that I would say he's criminally underrated, but I actually would agree he's underrated.
Well,
I think there are...
Why I think he's criminally underrated is a lot of people let wrestlers that have an axe to grind with him shape the narrative because... And it's not even fair because most of the problems people have with him is because he recognized his value and got the most out of the offices, which really gets a hate on from certain segments. But it's also people that didn't see the really great stuff he's done, so people treat him like he's bad or like Ultimate Warrior, and he's not. He's a guy. He's not even Brutus Beefcake. He is a guy that was average, bad, and had some periods of being legitimately good.
That's so comparing him to Warrior that's actually a good comparison because I think that is how some people perceive him, that he was essentially the NWA WCW Jim Crockett version of Warrior, which they're not remotely comparable, only in the sense that they're both kind of power guys. I would say that Luger at points in his career was probably unmotivated, so he wasn't great.
He had that motorcycle accident that really messed him up too.
Yeah, but I think the biggest problem for him that people kind of it's almost like wrestling fans are spoiled. there's a lot about him that it's not flashy.
No.
So compare him to like Sting, who he frequently tag teamed with. He was good friends with. A lot of his career is associated with Sting. Yeah. Sting was very like dynamic, had a lot more charisma than Luger did. No offense, Luger.
But you know, the funny thing is when they were starting to push Sting and Luger actually in the 80s and early 90s, Luger did draw better than Sting when he was given the ball. Comparatively.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Because Luger really, I think if you took Sting and you took Luger and you put them in a vacuum and you did not screw their booking up, I think Luger would have been a slightly bigger star with proper booking than Sting. I don't think he has the merits of Sting, but I think Luger had, especially in like the late 80s before they really screwed him up, like Luger had like that extra it factor that you just can't quantify. And Sting had that, but I don't think he had it quite like Luger did. And there's something, I also think what hurts Luger is people know him a lot from his WWF run, and he's just not a WWF guy. I think you can see that how he instantly goes back to WCW and he's instantly like bigger and seems more important because he's an NWA WCW guy, and I think he just, that's just his setting, and I think people don't get that. And I think the bad booking hurts him. He's kind of like Kane in a lot of ways, where I think if they hadn't have just like dicked Kane around so much, he could have been a little more.
Well,
go ahead.
I was going to say the other thing that Luger has is that he was, you already said, when he was unmotivated, it was pretty clear. But when you had, God, don't lose the thought. Damn it all, it's gone. Never mind. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So he did at points have like more like a larger than life persona. They tried to do that with the WWF, and it didn't quite take because they didn't really go full bore with it. I think he did have periods of greatness. There's some in like the late 80s, but there were still some in like the early 90s. Like I think we can generally say like I do agree that he's underrated, but his like early 90s heel work when he was like a champion,
Luger is great.
Yeah, was actually like fantastic when he just comes off as a superstar and also as like this complete dick heel.
And what I love about that is like Harley Race like took him under his wing and like taught him his like signature maneuver.
Yeah, and they basically positioned him to take over from Ric Flair, and that was a really like heavy load to carry, and it's difficult because I mean he was only in that position for a little bit before he actually
he got screwed because Flair walked out, like, so even his big moment got like hosed.
But that he actually like took it upon himself, and he was actually kind of filling that role. Like he came off to me, and this is like I'm looking back like when I was watching it as like a kid through like basically tapes, like stuff that I rented from the video store, like watching it, but like he came off to me as like a star. He presented himself like that. His work was good. His character work was fantastic. His promos were good. Like I think there were periods where he was absolutely fantastic.
And is that I think too is the match where he actually finally wins the belt, is that the one where he's wrestling Barry Windham, and like Barry Windham had part of his knee replaced with like a cadaver ligament, and it just like exploded like mid-match, and then like
yes,
it was a terrible match because they were trying to work around that.
Yeah, I want to. It might have been one of the Super Bowls. I'm not sure.
But yeah, so even his big moment got extra screwed because Wyndham got hurt.
Yeah, but I do think he has had periods of greatness. I think he's underrated. I actually think they're supposed to be doing. I think they're going to be doing a documentary. I think the WWE is doing a documentary on him.
Somebody is.
Yeah, I could see actually him. I think
he's an interesting shoot guy too, because he's kind of accepted a lot of his He kind of
I
owns a lot of his.
I think there's a lot of hate that has been thrown his way because of what happened with Miss Elizabeth and her death.
He admits that he was being a scumbag in that time, and he admits it. He's like, yeah, I was in a terrible place.
They were
I was
unfortunately
doing things I should not have been doing.
But I think it's really shitty what WWE did with that, insinuating that he killed her, because people still parrot that to this day, and it's just not.
Yeah.
It's not true, because what really bothers me about that is we can talk about the bad things he was doing in his life at that point, but you're taking away Miss Elizabeth's agency in that whole thing. Like, she chose to go down that path with him, and you can say this or that, but at the end of the day, she chose that, and unfortunately something bad happened, but you can't pull this shit where you say he killed her or whatever, because that's really not fair, because he did not, unless he injected her and made her OD, he maybe influenced her, but she still made those choices herself.
They were both, unfortunately, at the time, doing a heavy amount of drugs.
Yeah. And that absolves her of any wrongdoing, too. Because, it's hard. It really is. But we can't really...
But to go with that, there's plenty of people that abuse drugs their whole life, and they don't die. Sometimes you just lose that.
Well, as you said, people have their own agency. She was. It's really tragic. It's a very sad story, but.
And she had a heart. The shit with her and Randy just had to be tough, and she was around a lot of that stuff in WCW. You take him out of the equation, she might still ended up down that path, just because sometimes, I don't know her or what she was going through, but sometimes you're just self-medicating to make the bad go away.
Yeah.
You're just trying to handle what's going on.
Yeah.
And you can arguably say he suffered for it. He had, I think, a spinal stroke that left him without a lot of functioning below the neck for many years. I actually saw a recent picture of him with all people, Missy Hyatt. He was. They were basically they were standing together, and he looks. He doesn't have the physique he had. He looks a little bit frail, just because if you have any sort of spinal injury, that's fairly common. But the dude was standing, so it's he has
got some mobility.
Yeah, he has progressively. If you go from you basically can't move to you're able to at least stand on your own power, that's something.
Yeah.
So. But we've digressed a bit from my pick, but point is Luger is, I think, would work a lot with my roster. He's a guy who I hands down could put in the main event. He could be my main event face. He could also be turned heel and be a main event heel. I think his style would actually pair well with a lot of guys. And you could have him feud with you could have him feud with a good number of people on my roster.
I like him as a pick for you for a couple of other reasons too. I didn't get to say it earlier, but just his late 90s WCW face run. I really enjoyed that. I was a big fan then. But Luger brings something that you don't have anywhere on your roster. You don't have the body guy anywhere on your roster, and that is definitely Luger's wheelhouse. And so Luger, with that look, strong-looking guy doing strong-looking guy things. I don't know if he was using the torture rack at this point or not, but if he's Luger doing strong guy things, is going to stand out. It's going to be something new added to your card. I think he's a great addition for you.
Well, looking at my roster, it's if eventually I were to push Scott Steiner as a singles. They could have good matches.
Yep.
Barry Windham and Lex Luger could have good matches. Shawn Michaels, he could pinball around for Luger.
Yeah.
You could probably do stuff with like Williams and Gordy. Steve Austin, that could be a money feud down the road if I have.
Yeah, sure.
Austin developed as a main event guy. Him and Luger. Jeff Jarrett could work with him. Definitely, it's like a heel Jarrett versus a face Luger could be good. There's just
oh my god.
Yeah,
I love imagining that match because it's Weasley Jarrett running away from Luger because he sees his reflection on Luger's pecs and he's like, if this guy ever lays his hands on me, he's gonna rip me in half.
Yeah, and then
I love this idea.
And then you could also have like Jarrett. Just even imagining that match, you could have Jarrett do something where he cheats, where he gets the upper hand, and then it's several minutes of him just like pounding on Luger to get some heat, and then you have Luger make the comeback. Luger could basically kind of be a stand-in for lack of a better person to do an analogy for. Like he could be like a Hogan type of person here. Yeah, I think he would actually fit well with my roster.
I totally agree with you. I think he's a great pick for you.
Mm-hmm.
So
now you've also got your next pick
Yeah.
because you've got the first 17 pick.
Okay, I'm gonna go with a guy who is just a fantastic worker. He's like an alternate because I don't entirely know if his style would fit. I think he would have fantastic matches with my light heavyweight guys. But I'm gonna pick Jushin Thunder Liger.
Oh, he did it.
I'm going to pick him just because I know he would have fantastic matches with Ultimate Dragon. You could have him because Ray and Psychosis are, younger guys at this point. He could be basically a mentor to them and have great matches with them. Liger versus Eddie would be fantastic. Eddie did some time in New Japan as one of the Black Tigers. I think he was Black Tiger 2, right?
It might have been 1 because Silver King was 3.
No, I think Rollerball Mark Rocco was
Okay.
Black Tiger 1.
Because I know Silver King was the 3rd.
He was 3.
Yeah.
I feel like there's even been a 4th one. I don't
know who Ricky Reyes or Rocky Romero were.
Oh yeah, I think that's right.
Might have been Ricky Reyes.
Yeah. But Liger, I don't know how well he would fit with like a roughneck like Texas / lucha promotion.
He's
but
got
I
a
think
striky offense, so I think he'd be fine.
Yeah, you could also, you could also think about this. Like you could actually have him form like some sort of wacky tag team. If not with like Eddie, but you could do it with Eddie, but you could also have him form like a wacky tag team with. I don't know, Shawn Michaels, or I don't know, like even like what if you had a weird one like with him and Barry or something, and just you could at least like feud them short term with like Anderson and Eaton. Like could probably put in like some good matches. Like I don't think he's like necessarily like the perfect fit. I think Ultimate Dragon, because of his lucha background, is a better fit, but I do think Liger
did
so
a lot
talented.
of runs in
CMLL.
Yeah.
CMLL always has been the better, in my opinion, work rate promotion.
AAA gets a little weird booking wise for me.
It does, and I remember watching a lot of AAA and probably like the aughts, and it just like the aughts, and just wasn't good at all.
Yeah, I know.
Like really bad. Like
because even when they get like a really great roster, they always make like crappy booking decisions, and there's always some like even when I watched Triple Mania this year because it was free on YouTube, I really liked the Kenny Omega versus Laredo Kid match, and then that like Chess Man versus who was the other guy? Crap.
Was it Psycho Clown?
No, I don't think it was Psycho Clown. Who was the other guy? Damn it. It was Chessman and
let me look this up.
It wasn't El Mesías.
Oh, Pagano.
El Pagano, okay. And just like so like I had this great experience with it, and then Chessman and El Pagano come out, and then they're doing like these super like unsafe, like almost unprofessional like things to each other, and it's like, oh yeah, this is why
right.
I never stick with AAA.
didn't they? There was like a spot where someone basically did a shot on Hugo Savinovich.
Yeah,
Was it
he
Hugo?
did. He busted a guitar in his head. And the best part was like they did a partnership with Disney, so they had like Marvel characters wrestle on this, and then you have these guys.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's just AAA for you. So I'm up next with my 17th pick. I need like a mid-range heel. I kind of want a bigger guy that can work snug, guy that's technically proficient. And when you say those words, the first that comes to my mind is Scott Hall.
Ooh.
We're late into the draft, and no one has picked him until now.
Yep. He was just kind of
I
hanging
like
out.
it.
93 is kind of a weird year because he's kind of finding himself as Razor Ramon in 93. So, I think it makes sense. Like at this point, I'm starting to fill in gaps of what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm like looking at my list. I'm like, well, like where am I light? What do I need to do? So that's where he comes in. So Shad, you are up next.
Yeah, what I'm gonna do is at this point I need to fill in some spots. I need some more dedicated heels, and I need some heels that'll be good to really. I just really want to piss some people off, and so we're gonna have some heel shenanigans, but with guys who can also work in kind of a vicious style. So that means that I'm gonna go with the Texas Hangman, Psycho and Killer.
Okay, Killer and Psycho. That's a good tag team.
That's a really interesting one.
Yeah, well, considering the like if I look up and down my roster, I've got plucky up and comers. I've got guys who can flip back and forth between either one. I need some people who are just gonna be just real dicks. And was it AWF?
Yeah, they're on the AWF.
Yeah. They were one of, like, we watched two shows, and they were one of, if not potentially the best match in there. So what we had was, we had the two of them just being completely vicious, and then with the hooded gimmick and that sort of stuff, they can do the switch shenanigans and all that sort of thing. I just, they fill a spot I think I need.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that.
I remember seeing the Texas Hangmen in AWA.
Yeah.
And I feel it was back when the AWA was actually airing on ESPN when they were doing the whole this is like the challenge series.
Yeah.
This is like the very last gasp with AWA.
I remember Disorderly Conduct, I think, would dress up as them sometimes in
Yeah.
WCW.
No, they were actually Disorderly Conduct.
Well, one of them it was Bull Payne, and I think it was Tough Tom, or the original.
Oh, only one of them?
Yeah, and then I think just because it was like a masked gimmick, Tough Tom and Mean Mike started doing it a little bit in '97 just to change up their like job duty stuff.
I know that Bull Payne was around in that era. But that might, but because he was, there was one of the Spring Break Nitros where it was the one where Flair got thrown into the pool at the end.
Oh, where he's wrestling Ray?
Yeah. Well, they had told everybody, don't do anything with the pool because that's going to be Ray and Flair at the end. The opening match was Bull Payne versus Van Hammer, and Van Hammer kept desperately trying to chuck him into the pool. So I know he was around for that, but I don't know.
Well, I am up with my 18th pick. Again, I'm filling roster spots here, but he just stands out to me because he's a good promo, good worker. I think he would fit in with this group of guys I got a lot. If you look up and down the card, you could put this guy with anyone. With my 18th pick, I am taking Tracy Smothers.
Ooh, he was an alternate. He was an alternate for me. Like, fantastic hand. That's a great pick.
And he would have been really for you. He would have fit in with those like lightweight guys pretty well. I think. So Matt, you're up with your 18th pick.
Tracy would have been a very tempting one. I'm gonna go with a guy who is a fantastic technical worker. Smaller guy, so he would clearly work with a lot of the light heavyweight guys, but because he was such a good technical worker, you could actually have him work some of the other guys I've picked, like Arn, Bobby, even guys like Michael Jarrett. But I'm going to go with Dean Malenko.
Dean Malenko.
The Stinko Malenko.
Boris Malenko.
The man of 1,000 holds.
Okay, so Matt, you're up with your 19th.
Oh, okay. So again, like my roster it's like a tale of two rosters. Like I have a lot of guys who are a little bit more like Haas-tastic, bigger guys, stronger guys. But then also some guys who are technical, like really good technical workers who could kind of transition and face those guys. But my last two spots that I have to fill, I'm going to pick one of the two right now. I'm going with guys who would fit more into that light heavyweight role. And I'm going to go with a guy who at this point was very young, didn't achieve like the greatness he would achieve later. But I'm going to go with very young Rob Van Dam.
Rob Van Dam.
Not
you
necessarily
like Robbie
a guy
V at this point?
He was Robbie V at this point. I actually, he in 1993, I distinctly remember him having like a WCW Saturday Night match. I think maybe it was actually a WCW main event.
He had one with like Scotty Flamingo on WCW TV, I think.
That's not the one that I remember, but I remember him having it's basically just like a jobber match, but he was Robbie V, and he was so young and fresh faced. But I remember that match. I even think I had it on like videotape at the time, because I was blown away because he did the split leg moonsault, which was like his finisher for a time.
Oh, nice.
That's still a great spot.
And no one basically was doing that match at the time. That kind of move at the time. So I was like, whoa. That's kind of like Too Cold Scorpio. Like no one at the time was doing a 450 splash.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
When he did that, it was like, my young mind was blown that he was able to do something like that. Nowadays, you see Ricochet do, like, when he's allowed to, when he's actually on TV in a match that's more than 3 minutes long. You see Ricochet doing, like, crazier stuff. But Rob Van Dam at the time, like, he would have been young, but he could have clearly worked with Malenko, Liger, Ultimo Dragon, Psychosis, Rey Mysterio, Eddie, like so many guys on my roster. And a guy who down the road clearly you could have transitioned him. You can transition him into like heavyweight division.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go with a couple of up and coming guys in 1993 for my 19th and my 20th pick. I'm going to use them to kind of anchor out my tag team division. Again, guys that can go face or heel. I think they work well with my other tag teams, and I can bring them up the card as needed, especially when it's time for Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson to go. So for my final two picks, I am going to take Booker T and Stevie Ray as Harlem Heat.
Ooh, solid picks.
And that'll finish me off for my 20 picks. So Shad, you are up with your last two picks of the draft.
Yeah, so I'm looking at my stuff and I'm thinking, okay, I need, because you can't have everything on your card be the same, otherwise it gets boring, right? So I'm looking at it and I'm like, what am I gonna do? I need somebody else that's gonna stand out visually and do, if not a move, there's a move there that no one else does. They're gonna do one better than anybody else. Plus, I still have one more Japan pick, which means say hello to Great Muta.
I was wondering if he was gonna get picked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a number of guys on the list that I've kind of wondered if they're going to get pickups or not. But
I thought Matt might take Muda. I actually thought his Liger pick was going to be Muda because Muda's bigger than lightweights, but he can work them just because his style is compatible.
yeah.
I thought about that, and I would say I was trying to do a different type of style with my Texas promotion. I chose Texas, but the other one that was in contention was I was contemplating kind of do like a revamp of like Florida Championship Wrestling.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
And if I had done Florida, like I probably would have definitely picked Muda because I feel he would have been a little more conducive to that kind of environment. But
See,
I thought about
Muda's,
Muda, but I ultimately did not go that route.
for me, what's going to happen is Muda is going to pop the work rate parts of the crowd. So whenever you get over into the Carolinas and stuff like that, you know, he's going to get over anywhere, but there are some places where he's going to shine a little bit brighter.
Well, and you've slowly kind of rolled out some guys for him to work with Brian Pillman, 123 Kid, and Brad Armstrong. And honestly, even like Sting, Dustin Rhodes, and Cactus Jack would be good offsets for him.
Well, and I've got Brian Christopher and Bill Dundee as my my local gimmies, so that would work too.
Yeah.
And now I'm under the gun for my last pick. And my question here is, you know, what goes here? What am I missing? What do I not have? Because, you know, I've got a couple of aces way up at the top. I've got some up and comers. I've got some scrappy guys. I've got some prick heels. I've got some just nasty run you down types. And I'm sitting here looking at this because we've had, you know, between the three of us, it's going to end up being 60 picks out of this. And I'm wondering to myself what the last fit is going to be. And considerations going through my head. I know that he worked in the area at the time, but I do not trust Sid enough to bring him in. Just too unreliable. And the Sid Undertaker main event that we had for our ranking our 17 WrestleManias really soured me. Well, he was in 2 matches, and that really soured me. So, you know, dude, I guess I would say I don't necessarily have a muscle guy doing muscle things, but, you know, the people they could do that to would be kind of limited. So, and you know what? Just as another, well, I don't want to say goofy.
I know who it is. It's Nails, isn't it?
Oh God! Oh God! No!
Giant
No!
Gonzalez.
No! I can't. It's a Shockmaster. No, it's not. See, we've been going through this, and I've like been marking folks off my list. And I'm like, well, we're not using that, or that's already been picked. And now I'm looking, and I'm like, well, what in the world is left?
Well, like, what do you want like out of your last?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Is because
like,
if I look at the list,
do you want a big guy? Do you want like a talker? Because you've got decent talkers, I think, up and down your.
Yeah, well, that's one thing I was considering. Savage and Sting can talk. Cactus can talk. The Road Warriors can talk. Lawler very obviously can talk.
There is a name here. There is a name here that I don't know if you'd be interested in but he is a big guy. I think he'd work well with several of these guys. I think Bam Bam Bigelow might be an interesting.
Oh, that's a good point. That's
Sorry,
a
I'm trying
good
to get to the list
point.
here.
Yeah, I've been going up and down the list while you guys are talking.
Or you could go because we loved his promo about in his Central Park promos, but you could take
Dirty White Boy.
Yep.
I did think about that, but Dirty White Boy is going to be massively outsized here. He's just not going to fit the way we might want him to. Um,
I'm trying to look. You could use a heel. No, you could use a face. I think.
well, because I've made it a point to pick so many guys that could be either or, and let me look. That's
He would go.
on the
You know
mid
who would go
card.
great with Muda, Pillman, 1-2-3 Kid, Armstrong, Christopher, and Dundee is Owen Hart.
Yeah, I was thinking
Yeah.
about Owen. I really was. Because he would be different than all of them. He would be doing something different. And I also realized, I said strong guy doing strong guy things, and I was like, oh wait, I have Kobashi.
Oh, you have Davey Boy still out there too.
Oh yes, let me grab him. That sounds like a great idea. There is no way I trust Navy Boy. There at this point, there is no way I trust Navy Boy.
Matt Bourne is Doink the Clown still there. He was on my list,
Yeah.
but he just kept getting knocked down a bit. Eddie
Well,
Gilbert. Oh, Ted DiBiase's still there.
Yeah, Ted DiBiase was in the running for my first.
And he can tag with Hansen. He was tagging with Hansen in '93.
Oh, that's true. He did. There are some guys I'm looking at it, and it's just. You know what? I do need somebody that would be comfortable. The one thing that I'm going to run into is that if DiBiase is doing the $1 million gimmick, my territory is not the one he would be in.
You know, Shad. There is one guy here. I think you could actually use him with the Moondogs. You could use him with Killer and Psycho. You could even use him with Muda. Honestly, even Cactus Jack he'd work well with. But how about Kevin Sullivan?
Oh.
And he can talk.
He can talk. He is familiar with the area.
And Papa Shango he could work with too, because there's a whole crew of guys that could work with his like Satanist gimmick if you wanted to go that route with him.
He could. I'm sitting here thinking, would that step on Shango's toes too much, or not? And that's what I'm, because if I'm wanting to make sure that everybody's gimmick keeps them kind of unique and kind of special, would that step on it too much? And that's, for example, I've got Shango because Shango would be a great foil. I could have Shango be a foil for anybody, and we can have some fun with that. But that rules out doing things like pulling the Undertaker. Can't do that. That's honestly too close. And I can't guarantee I'd have the production values to Undertaker the way Undertaker needs to be Undertakered.
What about I'm gonna go a little nuts here. What about someone like the Tasmaniac?
Ooh,
I was looking at him, yeah, and I don't want to say that I am. Matt's over there. I'm like, will you please pick so I can do my last one? But I don't want to say I'm paralyzed by choices, but it's my last spot, and I want to have somebody that fits.
What about Rick Martel?
I considered him. Very technical, good-looking guy. He would fit a bunch of that stuff. You know what? I don't really have a technician, do I?
Oh, you know what? I got a great one for you because he works well with a lot of your smaller guys. What about Jerry Lynn?
I like Jerry Lynn. I was never quite as sold on him as some people were.
And Chris Candido's still out there.
Candido is still out there.
And you get Tammy with him, and he can talk on his own. Like he would be.
Oh, you do get at this point in time. You do get Tammy as a package deal, don't you?
Yep. And
which is going to help draw in the young men.
And this is Tammy at her peak, like doing like promo, like vignettes on how to brush your teeth for like the hillbillies and stuff. Like,
yeah, that's the thing that sells it. Is the package deal of Chris Candido and Tammy. I know I'm running a huge risk on backstage drama.
They're pretty manageable for a couple years.
That's true. At this point in time, they're kind of staying on track with each other, and yeah, that package deal gives you so much to work with, and he was.
This is him at his peak too, I would say, as a worker. Like he's awesome at this time frame.
He was pretty built out at the time too, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Maybe not like as bulked as he was in ECW.
No, but he had some heft to him. He's not like a skinny beanpole. He's got
Let's-
some bulk.
I want
Okay,
to look
so
real
we're
quick because with Candido, I don't know when did he start using the blonde bombshell, that top rope power bomb.
I think he was doing like a top rope headbutt this time.
Okay. I think he started doing the top rope power bomb in ECW.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's gonna. Candido can do. He could do some flying stuff, or he could do some technical stuff. So we have and Armstrong. Well, was Brett Armstrong a technician?
Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank.
He was.
Okay,
Yeah, I
so
would say so.
that would then there. We have his spot. He's trying to deal with the mountains of humanity I'm throwing in the ring by breaking them down.
And you could pair him up
Piece
with
by
like
piece.
Brian Christopher as a couple of like little douchey guys you want to smack around.
They'd be so good at it.
Yeah.
Thank you for the suggestion, Brad. I think that's
He
exactly
was
what
on
I
my
need.
short list, but I was running out of spots. Like him and he was on there. Like Buddy Landell was on there. A couple other guys were on there.
I had DiBiase, I had Kamala as an option. Kamala. And stuff like that, but it was, it wasn't filling the spot on the roster I felt like I needed.
Yeah, that's where you want that last guy to make, like, to kind of put it all together.
Well, yeah, and Candido's a good-looking guy. Tammy's a great-looking woman, which means that I get to draw both the young men and the young women off of one act. So, okay, I'm sorry. I'll quit talking now.
So my last pick for the 20th was Stevie Ray, obviously, to finish off Harlem
Yeah.
Heat. So, Matt, you have the last pick of the draft.
I actually had picked I had picked a guy, but now I'm going to change that. I was originally going to pick Jerry Lynn because I do think he would fit with a lot of my light heavyweight guys.
Yeah.
He would definitely pair well with Rob Van Dam, obviously. And I think he would still be like a fantastic pick, but I'm gonna actually change it up. I'm gonna go with a guy who hasn't been picked, but was discussed in the last few minutes. And I don't think, much like Liger, I don't think this guy perfectly fits with like a roughneck cowboy Texas themed promotion, but he's so talented and has such appeal for both like the light heavyweight guys that I've picked, and also he's such a good technical wrestler, an underrated like talker, character guy. But I'm gonna choose Owen Hart.
That's a good pick. I thought for sure he was going to be in your promotion, Matt, from the start.
I mean I didn't think of him that way, but I kind of as
remember we watched that pretty good Owen Hart Liger match.
Oh yeah, that was so good. That's actually kind of like what pushed me over. Like, cause if I have Liger on my roster, like Owen could have great matches with Liger, obviously because it happened, but he could have like fantastic matches with Ultimate Dragon, Malenko, Rob Van Dam,
Eddie.
Yeah. Oh my God, Eddie.
Terry Funk. He could have good matches with Shawn Michaels, Austin. I mean Jarrett.
Oh yeah.
Anyone
like,
really. Arn and Bobby.
Half my, at least half my roster. And he's a guy who you actually could push. I don't know that you would push him as like the main event worker, but he could definitely he could flirt with that. You could definitely push him as like at least a temporary. Like you could push him temporarily as like an upstart heel, or even like a plucky face challenging a dominant heel. Like he could fit in that spot. I guess I should reassess my thinking because friend of the show, Justin Curtis, he basically says that like Alberta or Calgary, where the Hearts are from, it's kind of cowboy in a sense.
Yeah.
Like Bret Hart's original gimmick.
Yeah, I mean, I actually I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but I've talked to Justin. I'm like, well, is Calgary like is that like Southern? And I think I was like, is it like redneck Southern or is it like cowboy Southern? And he's like, oh no, it's more like cowboy Southern.
Okay.
So
That makes sense.
Yeah, I guess maybe he would fit.
Yeah, I think so. So let's do a recap here. What we'll do is we'll kind of go over each person's roster and we'll kind of give comments what we think about their rosters.
I want to throw this in real quick, and we don't have to take very long at all, but it's interesting to me because I've got the PWI list. It's interesting to me of some of the people that did not end up on a roster. The fact that Flair did not end up on one of our rosters.
You know, the problem is I kept thinking about taking Flair, but then I got past what I thought my main event was, and I didn't want to congest it with another guy. And I think out of the 3 promotions, like, I'm the only promotion he fit in, and I kind of like boxed him out unintentionally.
Yeah, I don't. He wouldn't fit in mine. Yeah, he would fit yours best. You know, Hogan didn't get picked up, but Hogan's star was kind of on the wane.
And he doesn't fit. Hogan doesn't fit within anything the 3 of us would do. Now, like, Hogan around 95, 96, 97, I might start having some interest in, like, when he's going, like, the Hollywood route. Like, if we had done, like, a 97 or a 96 draft, I think he would have gone, like, in the top 5 for someone.
Oh, yeah. Totally see that.
That's kind of like a byproduct of this era.
DiBiase was an interesting non-pickup.
And I think Rude didn't get picked up because he didn't have a great 93, and his injuries really quickly on the horizon.
Yeah.
And I think, again, he mostly matched my promotion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel Flair would have matched your promotion the best of the 3 of us.
Mm-hmm.
I think Hogan would have matched your promotion the best of the 3 of us.
Yeah, it was a bad timing for Hogan. I just didn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't interested.
Yeah.
Well, as we've talked before, like Hogan did have brief runs in New Japan, and Hogan, as we've talked about, was a much better worker than he's given credit for. He was just didn't have.
This is a bad era for him, though, because he's off, like, the steroids. Like, he's really small.
Yeah, he's slimmed down.
I don't think he's, like, cutting, like, good promos in this era. He really hasn't, like, adjusted it for the 90s yet.
Here's an interesting thought experiment. All things considered, would 90, like, let's say early to mid 90s, Hogan, would he have worked in All Japan?
No.
You don't think so?
I think maybe later on, but I don't know.
It's tough. That's why I said it's an interesting thought experiment, because I feel like he would have done better than we think he would have, but I don't know how well he would have done.
Yeah.
Because if you look at 1993, I'm going to look at I have it pulled up right now. If I look at 1993 Champion Carnival, All Japan, there's guys on here that I feel he would have worked at least as good as, if not better. Like, I feel Hogan, this may sound crazy to people. I feel Hogan would have worked. He would have worked as good as or better as, like, Davey Boy or Johnny Ace or the Patriot.
Oh, definitely Johnny Ace. I think that the Patriot was willing to work stiff where he would have done better stylistically.
Like, Hogan, I actually think Hogan could have actually been really compelling.
He might have done better than the Eagle.
Oh, was that Jackie Fulton?
No, who was when Dave was on this, I couldn't remember. I thought the Eagle was the Patriot first, and I looked the Eagle up all the time, and it's always clear as day once I see who he is, and then I forget in the interim. So I'm going to look the Eagle up right now, and I'm going to be pissed off at myself because I'm going to be like, oh, yeah, that's who he is.
I am actually correct. It was Jackie Fulton.
Oh, yeah? Huh.
Who also wrestled as George Hines. I remember that period of his career.
Yeah.
I actually don't think I saw a lot of Jackie Fulton, even though he did.
He's not great.
I don't remember him being fantastic.
I thought about taking the Fantastics, but I would have probably taken Tommy Rogers, but they kind of just fell off my board and I forgot about him.
Yeah.
They would probably be like, when we start doing this and we make some roster shifts, they'd probably be my first like in group. But so I want to start with, I'm going to do it in reverse from what we did last time. So we're going to start with Shad's roster, which is Randy Savage, Sting, Stan Hansen, Dustin Rhodes, John Tenta, Cactus Jack, Animal Hawk, Jerry Lawler, Stan Lane, Brian Pillman, Kenta Kobashi, Papa Shango, 123 Kid, Brad Armstrong, Tatanka, Killer Psycho, Great Muta, Chris Candido, Moondog Spot, Moondog Cujo, Brian Christopher, Bill Dundee, and Bob Armstrong.
This is a thick, heavy-handed promotion, except for where it's not. Because, Savage isn't huge, but it's Randy Savage. He's so good that you can't not take him. But between Lane and Pillman and Waltman and I guess Brad Armstrong and Muta and Candido, I've got this array of smaller guys that are and Pillman, who are going to do cool things as well, contrasted to the rest of the roster that's going to be doing, heavy-handed, hard-hitting stuff. And so that's kind of where I was hoping for a little bit. Is I was shooting for, I got to have the hard-hitting stuff because of the area I'm in, but I've also got to have people do cool stuff. Because if you just see the same kinds of matches over and over again, you're going to get bored and you're not going to go back. So that's kind of where I was going.
Yeah. So what I see, I agree with that. I think looking at how your roster would shape up, I'm imagining Animal and Hawk are probably going to get your first title run and probably run with them for 6 to 8 months. And then they'll probably be heading out the door once they lose them to maybe like a younger team or to a trade of some sort. I think Kobashi's an interesting guy that I think could climb your card pretty steadily. I find Shango to be an interesting kind of dark horse guy here that could possibly be your world champion, especially like with the proper storytelling.
Okay.
And I think for me, Randy Savage would probably be my main guy to start with. And I think Randy Savage and like maybe Cactus Jack or Hansen would be my main feud to start with. And then like, I don't know if you're going to, Lawler can be heel or face, but I think he would probably be my main like non-title program, while Sting just kind of polishes off your mid-range guys and probably like I think I'd probably do like something like Sting and Muta right off the bat and just do some crazy.
Oh yeah, that gets people in the door real quick because they're Sting and Muta is doing awesome stuff and people are like, I got to see this.
Yeah, and kind of to acclimate your fans away from the hard-hitting stuff, so down the road in a year or two you can start kind of cycling in some different stuff.
See, I like to think, and you're going to have to tell me if I'm off base here, but I also like to think that this roster is diverse enough that I can play mix and match with most of the roster back and forth and have fresh feuds for a long time.
There's really a lot you could do, because even someone like Tatanka can work face and heel, and he could really, I mean, I see legitimately 8 feuds that he could pull off in an interesting fashion. Like, I think Tatanka and Candido would be interesting. Tatanka and Shango, something with Pillman, something with Lawler, something with Jack. Like, he really has options. And even Dustin Rhodes, like, you could do something with him and Lawler. Even something with Muta, like, he has options. And even guys you got, like Brian Christopher in this era, is really interesting, and like, he could do stuff with like Brad Armstrong and Tatanka and any number of guys. Even you could do something with him and Sting, like where Christopher just cheats all the time and like annoys Sting. Like, I think you really have a lot of good options here. And Bob Armstrong is your commissioner, like really really sets a tone of good talking that your roster can back up with their voices too.
Yeah. Savage can talk. Sting can talk. Hanson can. Yeah, he can kind of talk. Cactus can talk. Lawler. Kobashi doesn't need to. Candido and Tammy would be great. And then, the Hangmen don't need to. Muda
Shango
doesn't
can
need
talk if you want him to.
Did he talk much in that?
He did in the
that
USWA.
Okay. Well,
Well,
then,
I mean, if you want to actually go down chronologically, he talked a lot as Godfather.
Yeah.
That's true.
He can talk.
Yeah.
The gimmick, if you keep it as the Papa Shango gimmick, it's probably less conducive to him doing long promos.
I think
he could still talk.
I feel like if I was booking this with Shango, I'd probably have him talk to get some of the stereotype out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And he can talk okay, and I think it makes him creepier if he can talk.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have to talk much.
No.
It can be short stuff, and then, given that it's the Papa Shango gimmick, if he is invoking getting an article from the person or something from their past or something like that, he doesn't need to. He leaves it mysterious enough that when you do dig into it, you're like, oh crap, he found that.
Yeah, I
So
agree with that. So then my roster, we've got Big Van Vader, Bret Hart, Kurt Hennig, Ray Traylor, Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson, Meng the Barbarian, Ron Simmons, Too Cold Scorpio, Toshiaki Kawada, Akira Taue, The Patriot, Lord Steven Regal, Doug Furness, Dan Crawford, Scott Hall, Tracy Smothers, Booker T, Stevie Ray, Mike Enos, Wayne Bloom, Johnny Stewart, Al Snow, and Sergeant Slaughter. So I think where my very tippy top guys, other than Vader, kind of have that ability to work both sides of the spectrum. I think my mid-range picks have that, and then I went more with utility guys that fill specific roles as I went down.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have a balanced card through and through with guys that will have very good roles for themselves and can have good matches. I think I have a good tag team division, and I think where I'm a little weak is I don't necessarily have great talkers from start to finish. I definitely have some guys that would need some mouthpieces.
I think the biggest talkers that you're going to have, because Vader could talk, but it really worked better when he was doing his shtick and someone else was being more articulate.
I think Tracy Smothers, Kurt Hennig, and Ricky Morton are my best talkers.
Trailer's pretty good too.
Too Cold Scorpio is not bad either.
I don't have much recollection of Scorpio doing interviews.
Simmons and Regal are fine too. So
they're fine, but Hart, Hennig, Morton, I think would be your top of the line promos. Smothers and Trailer, I think, would be just an ace below that.
And Enos and Bloom are good because Bloom always interrupts Enos. And they cut good promos. Furness and Crawford aren't going to really talk. I mean, Hall's a good talker. Booker T and Stevie Ray are okay, but I think they work better with a manager. And then Meng and Barbarian are obviously not going to talk.
Booker needed to do a little bit of growing to get better with the interview stuff.
He needed about 6 years at this point.
But
I think where mine is going to really shine, though, I think is work rate more than the talking.
Yeah, you definitely got the work rate promotion, I think.
I maybe should have taken Flair. I really did need a talker in here. Well, Al Snow can talk. I could make Al Snow someone's manager because he could talk in this period.
That's true.
Yeah.
So then we have Matt up next. So Matt has Scott Steiner, Rick Steiner, Arn Anderson, Bobby Eaton, Steve Williams, Terry Gordy, Barry Windham, Jeff Jarrett, Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, Terry Funk, Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio Jr., Psychosis, Ultimate Dragon, Lex Luger, Hushin Liger, Dean Malenko, Rob Van Dam, Owen Hart, Chris Adams, Iceman Parsons, Mo Adib, who is Ahmed Johnson, Black Bart, and Kevin Von Erich. So the one thing I noticed when looking at Matt's promotion versus Shattermine is Matt kind of took on a project promotion. Like he has a lot of guys stashed away that are going to be good in 1 or 2 years, and that he's really building. Like he kind of shied away from current star power to build kind of. Matt has like a closet of guys that are going to be a big deal in 2 to 3 years if you were looking at this promotion objectively in 1993, whereas I think Shad and I to a certain degree forewent projects versus straight up these guys are productive now.
That's a good way to put it. They're guys who I would be counting on to kind of carry things for a couple years until like the younger guys kind of develop. Like the Steiners, Anderson, Eaton, Wyndham, Williams, Gordy, like those, even Terry Funk, like those guys could, Luker even, those guys could kind of carry things. And then a couple years down the road, you'd have guys like Michaels, Austin, Jarrett. Jarrett was pretty good at this point, but he was still kind of young. Like Jarrett, Guerrero, Owen Hart, even, like they could kind of move up into like the upper mid card, even main event potentially. And then you got guys like Mysterio, Psychosis. They would be bringing up the rear, but they're allowed. There's some time to develop. Rob Van Dam. It's kind of a weird mix. But I actually am happy with things because I think there's a lot of potential there.
I also think if we were to look at our rosters in like 2 years, I think Matt's would probably have the biggest turnover because like I think if we were looking at this Barry Windham, Terry Gordy, Terry Funk, and maybe Lex Luger would have moved on and he's got some more young guys. I think like Chris Adams, Parsons, and Ahmed Johnson and Black Bart would all be gone too. So I think what we'd see with Matt's is a lot of his older talent would have moved on to be replaced by younger talent still as the other talent like moves up.
And you would have had time to build that talent up. And so when those guys put them over on the way out, then you have made these new stars in a big way.
Because I could see like looking at this, like some of the things I would think of is like, oh, like I could see like Marty Jannetty slotting in and like showing up in this promotion in like the first 6 months, or something like that. Or I could see Chris Candido jumping from like Shad's promotion to Matt's.
Mm-hmm. So, Matt, I think one thing your promotion has over the rest of us, other than Terry Funk yelling at people every show, which would be awesome, but is you have a selection of guys on your roster that are going to do really cool stuff to watch. Between, like, just looking at between Michaels, Eddie, Mysterio, Psychosis, Ultimo Dragon, Liger, Malenko, RVD, Owen Hart, Bobby Eaton, there are going to be some matches that have some just absolutely cool as hell stuff going on.
I agree with that. I think Matt's gonna have like that high flying promotion with like some crazy like hoss fights in there. I think my promotion's gonna be that promotion if you just want someone to see, like, if you just want to see guys beating the shit out of each other and having like these great matches in the ring. And I think Shad's is the one you're gonna go to for, like, I think Shad's is gonna be the one, like, do you just want to see some like crazy shit happen and guys like just talking like some mad smack on a weekly basis? I think is like I think Shad took a very Memphis-esque promotion. Like I think that's the one where you go to see like the crazy stuff happening on a weekly basis.
And some, like you said, talking mad smack. So, do we have what we might consider parallels with what we're looking at on our rosters? Like, you compared mine to Memphis.
I have a very WCW roster, I feel like.
I feel like I have I have a very WCW roster.
I feel like I have a very mid-90s WCW roster, and you have a very, like, 96, 97 WCW roster. With, like, your...
Yeah,
Okay.
actually,
Yeah, I can see
looking at
that.
I'm gonna looking at my roster. Let me see. I actually think everyone was at some point in WCW. What? Maybe even Owen Hart. Was Owen Hart? Did Owen Hart?
he was in the early
Yeah,
90s.
Very brief period. I think did Owen Hart team with? No, I'm thinking of something.
Shawn Michaels is your only guy that wasn't a WCW guy ever, I think.
That's correct. That's right.
Because,
Mhm.
I'm looking at mine. Because I think all my guys were in WCW at some point, too. No, Doug Furnace, Dan Crawford, Akira Taue, Toshiaki Kawada were not. And then most of Shad's guys were not Lawler or Kobashi or Shango or Tatanka. No. Didn't they sign Tatanka for a while and he just never wrestled?
Who,
I'm not
WCW?
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Tatanka was kind of a pocket pick because I was trying to appeal to a very specific demographic in my area.
No, he's an underrated worker. He just didn't fit with what I was doing, but he was like kind of on my radar.
Well, that's what pushed him over the edge for me. So
He is kind of an underrated worker.
yeah, and he did work USWA, so he has some history in the region.
Not underrated like Lex Luger is underrated. But
I agree with you on that. Luger, we already covered it, but Luger gets a bum rap.
Chad,
Yeah.
down the road, I could have Terry Funk win that Brass Knucks championship, and then I could bring in young Tommy Dreamer.
Oh, you could.
And have them feud with each other. Because
You
you're a
don't wanna
goddamn
get-
coward, Tommy.
Oh,
You could show
yes,
me
please.
you're part of Terry. Tommy, but you're a goddamn coward. I hope Terry is okay. Like the latest news is he contracted
He
COVID,
contracted
but I think I had
COVID.
heard that he was actually recovering. So hopefully he's got through the worst of it.
Yeah. And so.
You know what? Somebody who was around at this point in time, and actually I think did at least a brief stint in WCW, and maybe had even worked parts of Japan, but none of us even thought about, was Benoit. I think
I would have.
you're all so, I think, traumatized by things that.
I considered him, but I would have wanted him in a tag team with Bobby Eaton like he did in '93. I wouldn't have wanted him as a solo act, but I wasn't super interested in having him on my roster either.
Yeah.
I looked at him, and then I thought about what I had, and it was kind of he would have been kind of a mix between my two, kind of the two themes I have going. You know, doing hard-hitting stuff, but then also being technical or getting the airborne a little bit. But I don't know, it just, maybe I am just too gun-shy about pulling him in. I didn't want to.
There were, I think there were a couple guys I had thought about, but guys that just didn't get drafted, but like the Nasty Boys did not get drafted. IRS and Ted DiBiase did not get drafted.
Yeah.
The Undertaker didn't get drafted. He just didn't fit with what I was doing.
Yeah, I came real close on DiBiase.
DiBiase was on my alternate list, which I think he was timeline wise, he would have kind of been like wrapping up his in-ring, but I do still think he could have had some utility in like my promotion. And actually, now that since he's mentioned, I didn't even contemplate Taker, But Taker would have actually probably played well in my promotion, but I would not have had him as like Taker. He would have been like,
been Mark Callis.
Yeah, but I mean, he would have worked. Like the dude's from Texas. Like he could have played in that.
Ricky Steamboat didn't go.
He was an alternate. Close. He was an alternate for me because like he's such a fantastic worker. Like he's kind of a favorite of mine. Like Steamboat is probably, if I had to rank him, I would probably put him in my top 10.
I thought about it. I thought about taking him at 5, but then I felt I got too top heavy. I was gonna get too top heavy if I took him.
Yeah,
I was so close. The spot Stan Lane went in almost went to Ricky Steamboat, and I didn't go for it because I looked at it and I thought Ricky Steamboat and Sting are going to be too similar to each other for my roster that I don't feel comfortable taking him. It was so close.
I'm a little surprised that Shane Douglas didn't go.
Well, okay, look, I popped friend of the show Christy Petrillo once already. It was somebody else's job.
He just didn't fit with what I was doing. I think he has his merits. I don't think he fit with my style, and I don't think he actually fit in anyone's style of promotion really well. I think he might have gone to someone had we like done like 25 roster spots.
Potentially. I was also concerned about him smashing things into a blithercree, and God, that just drives your insurance up. But
Rick Martel didn't go, but he was kind of. I don't think he fit.
Martel was close.
Yeah.
I think he probably would have fit you better than anybody else.
Yeah.
I thought about him.
I think if you had some more spots, Shad, I think Vampire Warrior would have really fit well with your promotion.
He was actually an alternate of mine because I actually think he probably would have worked really well with mine too.
Yeah,
considered it.
I think I also think for Shad, if he had more spots, like Dirty Dutch would have been a good addition, even though he was on
the list,
broken down.
I looked him up. I looked up Dutch, and it seemed like he was just doing commentating in '94.
He wrestled a bit.
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had the Fantastics on my expanded list a little bit. I just ran out of spots.
Mm-hmm.
Terry Sims, I think, would have been a good fit for Matt's promotion had he had a little more space.
That's an interesting one. I didn't even contemplate Terry Sims.
With all those small guys, like he's not like well known, but he would work well with a lot of those guys.
He actually would have.
I was so close. I'm gonna be dead honest with you. I was so close to drafting Bobby Fulton just because of my personal experience with him, but just not a good spot for him.
I think Sabu would have been an interesting addition to Matt or Shad's promotion.
Sabu would have, because to throw him against some of the big guys that I've got, Hansen and Tenta and the road, like you have a guy who, instead of like going toe to toe with him or trying to chop him down, just like flings himself at him.
Now this team was on my short list, but they did not get taken. But I did have. They were in the, especially when I took Ming and Barbarian, I thought they would be a good counterbalance, but the Smoking Guns were actually on my list.
I did think about them. I thought about them a lot.
Because I think actually all 3 promotions, they would have had some benefit to each of us.
Because it's another face or heel team, and their gimmick would have played better for Matt, I think.
But they're big guys. They were okay in the ring.
They worked well together.
Yeah, and they would fit like that Haas fight thing, or they'd fit the harder hitting stuff well. They couldn't talk for shit, but I mean.
That's why they had Tammy as their manager, but
Yeah.
well, for a little bit.
So we were gonna do a manager one tonight, but like I said, we need to research that a little more. So what we'll probably do is we're gonna come back the next week with Tuesday in Texas.
Yeah.
So that's going to be our next one, and then we might come back and kind of flesh this out and talk about like what our initial champions, maybe like what our first feuds would be. So I think that's what our next 2 shows are going to be when we're done with this.
Okay.
And then we'll probably, once we're done with that, we'll probably get back to some cartoons. Because we've been wrestling heavy lately.
Yeah, we've got some some big years in the cartoon stuff coming up.
Yeah. We've just been giving that a break because we're going into because I think X-Men hit the spring schedule of the next one we do.
Yeah.
So we're getting into we're getting into those big 90s years, and I think we kind of wanted to hit those in a fairly decent succession, but I think we wanted to give that a break. And funnily enough, I watched Ewoks just hit Disney Plus, and that is a very weird show.
I heard about that.
Yeah, and Droids I think hit too. But that is it for this week. Do either of you have anything before we ride off into the sunset?
I do not. This was actually super fun doing this draft.
It was really interesting.
Yeah.
I actually I'm really actually pleased with my promotion. I actually would want to book this promotion.
What we're gonna do is we'll check in maybe every couple of months, and we'll do some basic bare bones big picture booking just to progress our promotions. And what we'll do is expand our rosters out a little bit and let us sign some free agents, and then we'll figure out a system where we can start letting some of these guys go once we finish with them. But what we'll do is I'd say this will probably be a show we do every other month or quarterly. We'll check in and kind of talk about some big picture booking. I'm not going to book this promotion weekly or anything. I'm just going to I'll get hey, who are our champions, what are our main feuds, who's doing what, where's people on the card, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, everybody, thank you for joining us. What did you think of our rosters? Was there someone you thought one of us should have picked up but didn't? We would love to hear from you on social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And so this is Shad with Matt and Brad. We've been in 3 quarters. You're in the 4th, and we will catch you next time.